Let's get started. Welcome everyone. Welcome to the third week of Basque Country Box. We're tasting this guy today. The little pink-ish, salmon-ish color rosé sparkling. It's the only sparkling we have this month. So if you open the still wine, you open the wrong wine. But anyways, yeah, thank you for putting up with doing this tasting from far. Some technical difficulties I've had. Even yesterday, I sent out 2 reminder emails accidentally, it looks like. So yeah, hopefully that didn't confuse you. Hopefully that was clear that one of them was a very old template email. But anyways, yeah, this is the last one. I was just telling Julia that I bought a return ticket. So I will be heading back to DC tomorrow. So starting next week, I will be back at the usual residence doing the tasting at 8:30 p.m. Listen, I enjoy a good morning buzz like everybody else, but doing these tastings at 9:30 in the morning has been rough. Let me put it that way. I understand that I don't get any sympathy points. I am, after all, been traveling for like 5 weeks and doing these tastings. So, but I'm just saying, much rather drink these wines at 8:30 p.m. On Wednesday than 9:30 a.m. on Thursday. So, anyways, yeah, welcome everyone. Just a few things. I just sent this email out as well, but I need to wrap up enrollment for next month. So if you haven't, most of you on this call, actually all of you on this call have taken care of your invoice. So maybe this is a moot point, but in case you're watching the recording, I need to wrap up the enrollment. So if you still have outstanding invoice, please take care of that. If you are planning on skipping a month, just let me know so I can get that all squared away. But I would like to get that all done before I head back. So yeah, if you could take care of that or just let me know, I would appreciate it. In case you have not heard, next month's theme is going to be New Cali. I've said this before. I think there's an accidental email that went out that was meant to go out to my sales reps, but I'm calling it like a California 3.0. So I think there's a kind of a California 1.0 was Robert Mondavi, the original, the kind of the opening up and then of the California. And then there's the Paris Judgment of Paris, California that came. So that's the Paris of Judgment of Paris, the Robert Mondavi era. And then came Robert Parker era, which is just all really high alcohol, really extracted, really ripe, the big style of California that we associate California with. All the Napa, Sonoma, the Cat, the Chardonnay, that revolution, really, really overly oaked. I call it the slutty wine era of California. And then the last final kind of a evolution that's taking place now and there's some economic force there as well. So people are moving away from Sonoma in California and moving away from varieties like, Cabernet, Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and then working with a lot of different mission varieties, a lot of initial varieties that the Italian immigrants had planted in California, going outside of those areas and really going to old vine areas that have been kind of abandoned. So Sierra Nevadas, even Contra Costa County, there's some incredibly old Zinfandel vines, things like, and working with those. Even just outside of LA County, there's a lot of old vineyards that are planted to old Italian varieties as well as some French varieties like Trousseau. Like, who has Trousseau? Who knew that there's Trousseau growing in California? And purposely and working with those vines, So yeah, there's that and stylistically moving away from these hot, extracted, big style. So all that is taking place right now in California. So my aim next month is to kind of get a good feel for all of that. So kind of feature a few producers that are pushing those envelope. So that's the whole idea. Anyways, if you are joining us, take care of the inputs. If not, then just let me know so I can take care of all of that. All right, last announcement before we get to the wine is, as always, 6 Foot Wine Club donates 1% of its gross revenue to an organization whose mission statement aligns with value. And next month, I've chosen Freedom from Hunger. So if you want to donate alongside 6 Foot Wine Club or you want to learn more about what they do, you can check it out right there in the chat box. I'll just drop the link. Any questions about any of that from whether it be next month or whatnot before we get into the wine? Cool. Cool. In case you had just joining us now, we're tasting this guy today. 2016 Ameztoi Hijo de Rubentis Rosé Sparkling is what we're tasting today. I am going to demonstrate opening a bottle. I actually didn't open mine. I don't know if Marco is not on the call, but since we have some new folks this month, I figured, and it's also a good reminder or a good review for all of you veterans as well, about how to safely open a bottle of sparkling wine. So oftentimes when you get sparkling wine, at least traditionally made sparkling wine, and tank method sparkling wine, pet nats, usually you will get a crown cap, but at least higher pressure, highly pressurized sparkling wines, you will usually get one with a cork and a cage like this. Oftentimes there will be another foil that will go over it, so you either have to cut it or you have to peel it back. But you know, when you remove that foil, basically underneath it, this is what it looks like: cork, little cage, encapsulating the whole thing, locking it in. It often used to. It makes me cringe because I see it to this day. People open the bottle very unsafely. And I've seen light bulbs get taken out in restaurants by people taking this cage off and leaving it on the table. I tell the story all the time because it's a pretty unbelievable story, but it makes sense. But one of our oldest wine club members, he is the oldest, literally oldest wine club member, Marty. We call him the Godfather. He's an optometrist, ophthalmologist. I always get those two confused. I think ophthalmologists. I think ophthalmologists are the eye surgeons, and optometrists are the people who measure your prescription for the glasses. Ophthalmologists. Anyways, he's a longtime wine collector, big wine dude. Anyways, he told us a story a few years back that in his career as an ophthalmologist, he's seen 4 patients go blind in one eye because they got hit in the eye with a sparkling wine or like a champagne cork. So this shit really happens. So it is quite dangerous. And this is why I make a point to actually do this demonstration time to time on this call. So here you go. So yeah, imagine if you remove that foil, this is what you would be left with. Again, there's huge amount of pressure in this wine. With the traditional method wines, which are cava, most notably cava and champagne, those have about twice as much of air pressure inside the bottle as a car tire. So it's a lot of pressure. So as soon as this cage comes off, this is essentially a pneumatic weapon. This cork can just pop off and break shit or make you go blind. So this is what you do. Always make sure you either have a palm or finger or something on top of the cork, just so that if it starts to slip out, that you can kind of feel it. You can just start pointing it away from other people or try to stop, but always have something so it doesn't accidentally pop off. So you pull this little tag down, right? So now it's shooting off on the side. For some reason, I don't really understand why this is the internationally recognized or agreed upon convention, but there's always 5.5 turns in these little tab. So by the time you get to the 6th turn, this is gonna loosen up. So let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. See? Now it's loose, right? And then this is usually where I see people doing it wrong. At this point, I see a lot of people take this cage off and just leave it. And that shit makes me go crazy. But because you guys are all 6-foot wine club members, you will know how to open this safely. So usually what I do at this point is I just leave the cage on. I don't take it off. And then I just move my hand and then put my palm on top, right? And then I just grab the whole thing. And then I actually use the wire cage as something to hold on so it doesn't, my hand doesn't slip around the cork. And instead of twisting the top, I just hold the top in place and then I just turn the bottom. And by the way, don't point this at people. Don't point this at anything that's going to break. You know, point it away from people and just turn the bottom and you're going to feel it go. At some point, you're going to feel it slip. And then this is where the nun's fart comes in. I don't know if you guys can hear it. There you go. Voila. And then now you have pork that's been taken out very safely. Always a good idea to have some sort of napkin, towel, or do this over sink. With sparkling, you never know, and you might have gotten shaken. Unless you bought it a long time ago, it sat in your fridge for a while. Always a good idea to have some sort of towel because it can explode. But anyways, yeah, now you have a cork with cage on it. And yeah, just as another evidence of high pressure, this cork, when this was first put in the bottle, this was actually a square cork. It's just like all uniform length, uniform thickness all the way around. Just over time of this cork being inside the bottle under this cage and being pushed up so hard, so much that it forms this kind of mushroom-shaped shape. So just to give you an idea of how much pressure there really is inside this bottle. Anyways, there you go. We have it. Let me pour myself a little. There's everyone. Never a bad day to have some sparkling. Even if it's 9:30 in the morning on Thursday. Woo! Holy fucking acid. Yeah, that wakes you up in the morning. All right. Let's start with a map. Where are we? Cool. Here we are. Here's a map of Spain. Sorry, this map is. There you go. Here's a map of Spain. Should look pretty familiar by now. We're spending the entire month here in the north, in a little País Vasco, which literally translates to Basque country. We've talked about this for a little bit, but pretty fascinating area. Rest of Spain, just even the landscape looks very different here. Rest of Spain, obviously there's some other parts as well that are a little bit different, but in general, when you're talking about Spain, it is a very arid, very hot, very dry place. But when you get to north here, it all changes. They call this a green Spain. This coast, particularly along the Bay of Biscay, along the Atlantic Ocean. There's a mountain that runs through this gray part. If you look at this map closely, this gray part is a mountain range that runs through the top. So all the moisture, all the clouds, all the rain cover that comes in from the Atlantic Ocean gets stuck behind this mountain range and it dumps that rain all the way across. So we're talking about Galicia, right? We put a month together in Galicia, starting all the way from here, going all the way across this coastline. There's a ton of rain. There's a ton of moisture that comes in. So as a place that gets a lot of water, it is quite luscious and then it's super green. And as you can imagine, just in a short distance, you go from this complete coastal sea level viticulture going all the way up the mountain range, high viticulture, high elevation viticulture. So you get to see these kind of different diversity in terms of elevation, also the soil type changes, different aspects, different elevation, all those things makes for a really interesting area in terms of wine styles. Very various style wine styles that exist here, and is also noticeably different from the rest of the country, because the rest of the country is, quite frankly, I mean, there's probably no real Spanish people on this call, but it's too fucking hot to grow, you know, a lot of the varieties. So you get this really big, punch you in the face kind of style of wine, which is not necessarily bad. Don't get me wrong, but there's oftentimes with the Spanish wine, what I think it lacks is this sense of freshness. And that's not the case here. There's a lot of that. And that's part of the reason why I love Basque wines as well as Galicia wines, is that there's this really elevated acid and really just bright liveliness that exists. That's oftentimes not the case Spanish wines. I mean, you know, the inside part of Spain really produces the big kind of over they can age for a very long time because you can extract and you can get the phenolic ripeness, the ripeness because of all that sun and the heat that they get. But here you get that acid, which is amazing. Really well-known area for its culinary achievements. Some of the highest density of a Michelin-star restaurants here in Basque Country, particularly in San Sebastián, which is this little part, this little sliver right here. You can actually see San Sebastián from the where this winery is located. So this is on the kind of eastern part of this kind of bigger region, bigger part, until it goes into the right. If you look just a little more closely, that's not the one. So there are 3 DOs, which are Spanish appellation system in the Basque Country, and then the one this one comes from is called Dio Getariaco Chacolina. By the way, in case you're joining us for the first time this month, the pronunciation from this region is very difficult. There's a whole separate language that exists here. So yeah, a lot of S's, a lot of X's and Z's, and yeah, so the pronunciation is quite unique and different from the rest of Spain. But anyways, Getariaco Chacolina is where we are. It says right on the label, I believe, actually, you want to see what that spelling was like. Yeah, that little DO label right there tells you what the name of the DO is. Anyways, this is where it is in terms of all that Basque Country. It's right up again, as you can see, it's right against the border here. This little town, this little dot is Etaria, which is the name of the town, and then this is where the winery is. So it's very, very close to the ocean and the coast. And then from here, San Sebastián is right here, or Donacia, which is a name in the native language, local language. You see, you can kind of see it. So this is actually the picture from the winery itself. This is actually their vineyards. So again, I mean, look at how lusciously green this is. This kind of rugged coastline, planted up on the elevation, planted up on slopes. And part of why their wines are so fresh and delicious, the Ameztoi's wine, is because their location. I mean, they get plenty of rain, plenty of moisture, so they don't have to worry about irrigation or any of that. But they also get, because they're up on the slopes, they get plenty of sunlight, don't have to worry about any kind of problem issues with the ripening. But because it's also in the elevation, and because the maritime influence of the Atlantic Ocean, it is cooler. So it keeps the acidity, keeps it lively. And particularly this producer in its own house style, they tend to make wines that are lower in ABV, just much more lively, much more food friendly. So yeah, and a lot of that is because, as you can see, this exact location of their vineyards. Let's talk about who makes the wine. This Ameztoi. They're kind of a reference point producer, highly respected in this region. So Ameztoi is the name of the winery. It's the last name of the family. It's now run by this dude, Egnacio Ameztoi. He's a 5th generation Chocolina producer. His family has been making wine, growing grapes for 4 or 5 generations. Ignacio, however, is kind of the wild horse in the family. They've all, prior to him, they've all made kind of traditional chocolate wines, which are all kind of made in a big barrels, neutral barrels. But Ignacio is kind of known and respected for both being a fierce kind of defender of that traditional style of chocolate, really preserving that old style instead of giving into the international varieties. He decided to work with only the indigenous varieties, the regional indigenous varieties, the Ondarabi Belza and Ondarabi Zuri. The Zuri is the white variety and Belza is the red variety. And then he makes it in a traditional style in large barrels and all of that. But however, on the other side, on the flip side, he's also a kind of a fearless innovator. He's always trying new things. And he was the first one that produced the Rosé Chocolina. He's widely regarded as an inventor of Rosé Chocolina and traditional method sparkling Chocolina wine, which is exactly what we're tasting today. Their Rosé is cool. Their Rosé is very delicious as well. But for me, it's not every day you come across a sparkling Chocolina. I mean, Chocolina is effervescent and spritzy, just in its style, but this fully sparkling chocolate, particularly rosé, is a very rare thing. And this guy is credited, and a lot of people are doing it now, but this guy's credited being the first one to do it in chocolate. And you know, you may be thinking, I'm like, what's the big fucking deal? He made rosé. Like, is that really an innovation, right? But in an area like this where tradition kind of rules the land and everybody does the same thing, and quite frankly, the Ondarabi Belza, the red variety, the indigenous variety, the Cabernet Franc descendant, is for a long time it was kind of forgotten. Not only forgotten, it was like intentionally ignored because it's a harder grape variety to grow than the white one. And then the white one also got some international fame and popularity behind it. So everybody switched over to Ondarabi Zuri, focused on Ondarabi Zuri. Even now, about 90% of the planting in this area is all Ondarabi Zuri. And the Ondarabi Belza is a very small percentage. And also a lot of people just went to international variety instead of working with the smaller yield indigenous varieties. But this guy said, nope, not going to do that. In fact, I'm going to focus a little bit more on Ondarabi Belza, even when everybody else is moving away from that, just to kind of keep the tradition going, and then to make something new, kind of redefine what kind of stylistic expressions are possible within Basque country. So this is actually straight from his website, but it says the iconic Rubentis rosé. So his still rosé is called Rubentis, and then this one is called Hijo de Rubentis, the sparkling wine. The iconic Rubentis rosé is a field blend of Ondarabi Zuri and Ondarabi Belza varieties, which are co-fermented for 3 weeks. When most local wineries give up on the indigenous red Ondarabi Belza vines, Ameztoi family retained their old vines, which gives their rosé exceptional vibrancy and complexity. Rubentis, the region's first pink wine, was inspired by the historic claret-style wines, which were once produced in the area long before the current global craze made rosé famous. The backbone of the blend comes from a Ondarabi Belza vineyard planted in 1840, preserved by the Ameztoi family for generations. So again, yes, you may think, rosé, big deal. But the fact that somebody was doing that in this area with that kind of old vine Ondarabi Belza is a pretty rare thing and a pretty incredible thing. So my hats off to this guy or this family. mention this, but they're known for producing kind of this refreshing, low alcohol. I mean, chocolate in general is a low alcohol, refreshing wine, but particularly there's they really pick the wine grapes even earlier than usual, just to keep that acidity and the vibrancy and than their neighbors. Ameztoi, they farm 20 hectares you saw the pictures of it, that pristine vineyard planted on that kind of dramatic seaside cliff facing the Bay of Biscay. They only work with the indigenous varieties, the Untitled and Untitled Chapter again. And then from the top of the vineyards, you can see San Sebastián, which is about 20 minutes away to the east. With Hijo de Rubentis, however, this is not the same wine as Rubentis. So Rubentis is, like the website says, is co-fermented of Untitled and Untitled Chapter. But with this, with a Hijo de Rubentis, it's 100% Untitled Chapter, and then it's just direct pressed. It's not co-fermented. So two different kind of ways to get to rosé, but one's co-fermentation, and then this is direct press. So speaking of which, what is this wine? Also, let me get out of this thing so you're not just staring at Ignacio's face all the time. And so you can just stare at this face. It's like that. Anyway, what is this wine? So this is an old vine, 70-plus-year-old. Untitled Chapter, the youngest vine that went into this thing is 70 years old. So just to give you an idea of how old of a old vine vineyard this is. Untitled Chapter grown on steep slopes, as you saw. They do pick it a little bit early to ensure acidity, and then it's direct press off the bladder press. What does that all mean? So direct press just means as soon as the grapes come into the winery, they put it in a press and then just press it off to get it off the skins. And then in the texture, they specifically make a point of saying it was done in a bladder press, which is this kind of like, imagine just this bag inside of this press, and how it works. So usually classically basket press, how it works is you stack up grape berries and they huge plate on top and just press it down, and then all the juice flows out, right? But the bladder press is that you put the grape berries in there. There's a balloon inside, and the balloon, you just put air in there, and then balloon presses the grape berries up against the walls of the press, and then the juice comes out. The bladder press is a much gentler extraction than a basket press. So it kind of gives you an insight into what this family or what Egnacio was trying to do, which is that he's trying to preserve kind of that, elegant, more softer kind of aromas and flavors. He doesn't want to extract all that tannin and phenolic compounds, which is what you usually get with the basket press. So oftentimes with wines that you actually want to get more tannin and more phenolic compounds into the wine, you'll often see basket press being used. The wines that are meant to be aged, designed to be aged for a long time, they will usually be used in a much higher pressurized press. But bladder press is much gentler pressure. So it's often used for white wine production as well as rosé wine production, also for red. But it just gives you some insight into his head and thinking about why he used a bladder press as opposed to a basket press or different kind of press. So anyways, direct press off of bladder press. First fermentation is done in a temperature controlled stainless steel tank. They keep it near freezing point. Again, this all gives you insight into what Ignacio is trying to do, which is to preserve all that delicate aromas. It's the reason why you do softer, gentler direct press, and then it's also why you put it in a temperature control stainless steel tank. Lower temperature, longer, slower fermentation preserves all of that, all the aromas. This is something quite contrary and then unique to Ameztoi. A lot of producers don't do this in Basque, particularly even with the sparkling wine, which is that he actually puts the base still wine on his leaf, leaves it on the leaves with bâtonnage, which is just a fancy French word for stirring up the leaves. Literally, you're going in there with like a stick and stirring up the leaves. Or in this case, with a stainless steel tank, they could put pressure like bubbles on there on the bottom, and then put all the leaves to stir up into the wine. But oftentimes it's done manually with hand. But puts it at batonnage, 6 months on the lees before the second fermentation. That also gives you some sort of insight, which is that he's trying to, 6 months is not long enough to really pick up that kind of leesy kind of quality. It's really for more of a structure and mouthfeel. He's probably trying to round out a little bit of that really sharp. This is also picked early, so really sharp. And chocolate in general is a very sharp, high acid wine. So, and then he picked it even earlier than that, even for chocolate. So he's trying to round out some of the sharp, really jagged edges. Um, yeah, just and then fill out some of that mouthfeel, just kind of give it some body. So 6 months on the lees with batonnage before the second fermentation, and then just like champagne method, traditional method, which is what this is, which is the bottle fermentation. There are two fermentations, and the second fermentation happens inside the bottle instead of inside the tank. So with Prosecco, that second fermentation happens inside the tank. With a champagne and cava traditional method, that second fermentation takes inside the bottle. So yeah, he puts that base wine inside this exact bottle that we're drinking out of today. And then he puts a little bit of grape must. He reserves some of that first grape must from the direct press, and it keeps it frozen. And then once he's ready to start the second fermentation, he puts the base wine in the bottle, puts a little of that grape must, and then as I actually didn't know that this was the word. This I still have a hard time pronouncing this word. Is a autochthonious yeast, which means from the place. So oftentimes with the champagne and other secondary fermentation, what they do is they throw the base wine in there, they throw some yeast, and they throw some sugar in there, and the second fermentation starts inside the bottle. Different way to do this is that he, and more in line with kind of what we talk about here at Sex Blanca in terms of natural wine, is that not adding anything is essentially you are adding the grape must, the actual unfermented juice of the grapes, which is for the sugar. That's really for the sugar, not really for the yeast. So you add that in there, and then the yeast itself, it actually comes from, they can cultivate the yeast from the vineyard. So they'll usually grow take the strain from their own vineyard, and then they'll grow it inside their own winery, inside the cellar. So all the yeast, even though you are actively adding another agent into the wine, at least the yeast comes from the strain of the yeast actually comes from the vineyard, as opposed to purchasing it from a different lab. So yeah, it's idea is that people are saying this is a way to preserve the true terroir, the sense of place of the wine, because we grew the yeast that exists in our vineyard rather than buying it from a lab that grows it somewhere. So anyways, so yeah, he throws a little bit of grape must in there for the sugar, and then he throws somebody's own vineyard yeast inside the bottle. And now they're doing their happy things inside. Usually this gets capped with a crown cap first. After yeast eats up all the sugar that's inside this bottle, the whole time they do this process, which is called the remuage, which is again French word for this process I'm about to describe, which is that you take the bottle, and over time you just kind of turn it on the side, turn a little bit, and put it up, and then another day the winemaker will come back, then turn a little bit again, and then turn it up, and they'll repeat this process over weeks and months, and until the bottle is pretty much standing upright. All the dead yeast cells will be collected at the tip of the wine bottle. They usually put that in a freezing brine solution, and then they'll pop that off. That popping off is called disgorgement. Oftentimes, I don't know if this one has it, probably does. Yeah, it does. The bottles will have disgorgement date written on it if it's traditional method. This one, my bottle, was disgorged on July 2022. You should all probably have the same disgorgement date. So this is a 2016 vintage, which means this probably was put into a second fermentation in 2017. Definitely was put into second fermentation in 2017. And then it was disgorged on 2022, which means it sat on the lees for about 5 years, which is about how long vintage champagne by law at minimum is supposed to spend on the lees, to give you an idea of what this wine is. So yeah, so it sits on the lees, and then they pop it off, and then all the yeast that was in that frozen puck, ice puck now essentially, because you dipped it in the freezing brine solution, it shoots out of the bottle because all the built-up pressure. And then now you've gotten rid of all that lees, and then the wine is nice and clear. And then usually top it off with a little bit more sugar, a little bit more wine, just to get it back up to the fill level. And then at that point, they'll adjust the sugar level. And the sugar is not necessarily for stylistically to make it sweet or whatnot. It's really more for balance, because sparkling wines are just really, really high in acid. And it's part of the reason why he picks these grapes even earlier than usual. But this one is this. I don't know how much sugar got added to this one, but it's very little, because overall the whole thing has about 4 grams per liter of sugar in this bottle, which is pretty much bone dry territory. Most humans won't be able to detect sugar under 5 grams per liter. So we're talking about bone dry wine here. So yeah, usually they throw some little sugar, little base wine, just top it up, and then they'll put this cage on there, the cork and cage on there. And oftentimes they'll even ferment it longer. They'll bottle age it for longer before releasing it into the market. In this case, this was 2022. So we're drinking 2023, which means this probably spent at least 2 years, year and a half in its bottles aging before it got released into the market. So for something that, you know, people don't take so seriously, like Chapoli, right? It's something, it's like a poolside wine that you pound. For him to spend 5 years putting it on the beast and spending an additional year and a half doing a bottle aging before releasing it to the market, it's a lot. It's definitely something that should be respected. He's really trying to showcase that it is possible to make wines of this style from Basque. And I give him a lot of respect for that. Yeah, so that's what traditional method is, and that's what this one is. Any questions about anything I just went over before we get into a tasting?
Yeah. Does the alcohol content change as they keep it longer on the in the second fermentation?
No, I mean, maybe ever so slightly, because you are adding a little more yeast and you are adding a little more sugar, but it's negligible. The most of the alcohol that's in the wine is produced of the primary fermentation, first fermentation. The second one is really just for the actual sparkling CO2, not really for alcohol addition. Any other questions? Excellent. Excellent. Let's taste the wine. Let's taste the wine. Who wants to take the appearance?
I'll do it. I'll go.
Okay.
All right.
Excellent. Hold on for a second. What is happening here? There you go. All right, Phil. Take it away.
Got to close up that
Oh, sorry.
an ad on top.
There you go.
Okay. This starts with this is clear.
This wine is clear.
And intensity is I'd say it's pale. And
yeah.
The color is not a pink, but more of a salmon, almost
yeah.
Almost orange, like an orange wine.
Yeah.
And lots of petulance bubbles that you keep they keep running. And I guess that's it.
Yeah. Excellent. 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 Yeah, I was only thing I was in between was whether I should call this medium, I should call this pale. I think pale is perfectly fine. In the bottle, I think just looking at the bottle, it has a little more color, but in my glass, actually, it doesn't have a whole lot of color. But you know, if you call this medium, I think it's perfectly acceptable. I was going back and forth whether to call it pale or medium, but outside of that, I think your call of salmon, the speck of orange, I think is actually a really good call. But yeah, but only other thing that I wanted to mention, which is what Phil talked about, is this kind of ever so persistent fine bubbles that keep popping up. this only happens with really traditional method that has spent plenty of time inside bottle. If you ever look at Prosecco or other bottles, Pennet, definitely the bubble side is much bigger, as well as they don't last very long. The bubbles kind of blow off much quicker. It's because it just hasn't spent so much time. When the wine spends a lot of time, or the gas spends so much time in the wine, it really dissolves it into the wine, and it just sets off. It just gives off these really, really persistent, tiny little pinpoint bubbles, which is a sign of a traditional method sparkling. Not champagne. All right, excellent job, Phil. You get to pick the next person for the notes.
Let's see. Below me is Julie and Dan, Ian and Alysha.
We've got a whole party here. We've got Ian
Oh,
and
hello.
Dan, and me and Alysha, and Dottie's here too, but she's a cat, so.
What's up, Ian? What's up, Alysha? It's been a while.
Guys. Okay, we're gonna do this as a team.
Yeah, we are.
All right. So those.
Okay.
I smell nothing.
So I mean, it smells a little clean now, but I think when we first opened it, it had a
little reduction.
it was a little yeah, had a
Yeah.
little.
Yeah, there's definitely some reduction on this thing. I mean, he did the first thing in stainless steel tank, and it's often traditional wine does. And then, yeah, I 100% agree. I thought it was a little reductive when I first opened. My glass, it has blown off now. I don't get a whole lot of that reduction now, but yeah, I would call this wine clean. I would call this sound. There's nothing wrong with the wine. It's just a little reduction. Yeah.
Yeah.
Intensity?
Yeah, medium.
Medium plus. Yeah. Like 2 inches off.
Yeah. Yeah, mine is about like
It's in there.
here. So yeah, that's like, yeah, about 2 inches. Yeah, I'll call this medium plus as well. Also, my wine is quite cold right now, so that may have something to do with it. But yeah, even then, it's just like right between medium plus. As this warms up, we'll probably get to medium plus. But even now, like I'll say, it's right around here. So yeah, it's right bordering on medium plus, low end of medium plus, high end of medium. It's kind of where I end up. That being generous, I'm gonna call it medium plus. What do you get?
So I definitely get floral now that it's chilled out a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. Like maybe like geranium or
Yeah, I think this is floral essence is correct. I often get a touch of floral with Cabernet Franc, and this being the Cabernet Franc descendant, I don't think it's off the uncommon for you to get some of that. But yeah,
like or like
some sort of a floral sense
some
here.
sort of floral. Yeah.
Absolutely. What else?
I mean, probably some green fruit,
Yeah, I get a little, yeah,
Okay, call it up.
full kind of.
green apple.
What kind of apple? Like red apple, green
Green.
apple, yellow,
Green apple.
green?
Going-
Yeah,
Going green.
yeah. I think green is a good call. Citrus?
Mm,
Maybe some grapefruit or lemon.
Yeah.
yeah.
To me, there's always citrus in
Yeah.
white and the wines, but there's lemon. I think that grapefruit call is good. I think that there's a little bit of a grapefruit skin here, but yeah, there's quite a bit of citrus. Any stone fruit?
Maybe a bit of like apricot.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me, this is not so much just stone fruit, tropical territory here, but there's definitely some
Right.
citrus, little bit that touch of green fruit. I
Have we
think is a
ever
good
had
call.
a banana wine? I'm just noticing that on the list for the first time.
Yeah, it's not, it's very rare, but you can get it. Especially it comes from less so, first it has come from like a warm place, like a warm climate, but it also has a lot to do with actual fermentation. So unless you don't do, if you do like a slow, cool temperature control fermentation, you rarely get banana, but really hot, fast fermentation, it produces this chemical compound called ester, which is what smells a lot like banana.
I would be so angry if I got a banana wine.
I mean, I've had beers that have like a banana, and that's from the
Yeah,
yeast.
Yeah.
exactly. There's certain strain of yeast that gives that as well, but in wine, it's usually the speed of fermentation. Well, coupled with a particular varieties in a warm climate, it's usually where you get banana, but it's very rare. Like if you ever wanted to smell what ester, like what banana in wine kind of smells like, if you're familiar with the Jamaican wine, Jamaican rum. So Jamaican rum has shit ton of ester. Just the process of how they make it, they use this process called dunder, where they take some of the leftover from the previous distillation, they add it to the second one, and it gets added to the next one. It kind of keeps living and gets added to the next batch. And through that process, it produces a shit ton of ester, and that's what causes the banana smell. And Jamaican.
Interesting.
Yeah, Jamaican rum has
It's not
just
like, it's not because they're just like putting banana extract in it to like,
no, yeah, it's not a banana trick thing.
Yeah.
But it just that process is what gives it Jamaican rum is very distinct style. So yeah, if you kind of wanted to see what banana, that tropical ester-y thing smells like, tastes like in spirits or in booze, I highly recommend checking out Jamaican rum. So Appleton, check it out. But anyways, red fruit, black fruit?
Nope.
No?
I mean, I don't know if it's the power of suggestion from the color, but I feel like I get a little strawberry.
Yeah, I think there's a little red berry here. Kind of like a unripe raspberry, like a green strawberry kind of a deal. It's not like a super ripe like a red fruit, like it's not like the fruit basket kind of a deal, but like a little bit of like underripe raspberry, underripe strawberry. I get a little bit of that. No black fruit for me. This is mostly in the red fruit, but yeah, even that there's the red fruit is secondary. It's really kind of what you guys talked about, the citrus, touch of green fruit, and then a little bit of the touch of flower on top is what I'm getting here as well. Nature of the fruit.
Well, hold on. There's like a lot of
Yeah, we're getting
like,
a lot of pepper.
like a lot of
Like
bell
a lot
pepper.
of jalapeno pepper,
It's-
like bell
Yeah.
pepper.
It's like hard to
Yeah.
make anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I 100%
We
agree.
get capsicum, which is a word that I only know because of wine club.
Yeah, like I mentioned, this is Ondarabi Belza is a descendant of Cabernet Franc, and Cabernet Franc by nature is a quite high in pyrazine. Pyrazine is the compound that gives that green, the Cabernet Francs, that green bell pepper, in extreme cases, jalapeno pepper, capsicum, things like that. Freshly cut grass, all that. So it's very, very common to get green, everything that you guys are talking about in Basque red wine. So the fact that this is 100% Underi Velta, and given that he also picked this early, remember, just keep acidity high. He picked this early, which means that all that phenolic, pyrazine kind of greenness is going to be even stronger than had you picked it, a little bit later at the normal time that you would have picked to make the still red wine. And that's probably a reason why he put it in a direct press and a bladder press. He wants to extract as little of that green as possible because he just naturally is already high on it. So just bring a gentle pressure, getting it off the skins as quickly as possible. It probably to avoid getting all that peppery green notes in the wine to make it too savory. But yeah, I think it's an excellent call to call out some green on this thing. Absolutely. Anything else? How about some like black pepper, white pepper kind of pepper? Any?
Just all the other peppers, just every
Okay.
just every nightshade.
Okay. And then any stones?
I don't think so.
Maybe, I don't know, it's hard to tell if it's like just the glass or
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get a little bit of like a sprinkle of rock dust on this thing, but
yeah.
it's not like a hugely rocky kind of a thing. But also with the reductive wines, unless it's mildly reductive, not like over the top reductive. Like with the mildly reductive wines, I almost always get a little bit of like a rocky sensation. There's a whole research and that's going on right now about what we see as minerality. Is that where is that coming from? And a lot of places a lot of people are studying reduction as a possible cause for what we think of as a minerality. So like Chablis, for example, highly reductive wine, and we always think of Chablis as having this like oyster shell crushed rock kind of a thing. Is it actually oyster shell? Is it reduction in the wine?
Mhm.
Some is also true in Riesling. A lot of people talk about like, oh my God, all that slate, all that slaty minerality, gunsmoke flint, is it really that or is it reduction? So but there's some of that going on as well. But I get it though, like at a very mild level, like reduction can come off as like kind of little flinty, smoky kind of minerality thing. So anyways, it may be that. But any secondary?
No.
Yeah, this is
Well, yeah,
I agree. This is the one that actually caught me by a little surprise.
like you don't
knowing
get
that
the biscuity, yeasty,
Yes. Yes. Knowing that how long this has spent time on the lees, the fact that I'm not getting these huge amounts of autolysis, autolytic flavors and aromas. I'm giving 5 years. But yeah, I expected more of this to come out. There's a little bit of savoriness, but honestly, to me, this is very primary fruit kind of driven, not a secondary autolytic flavor driven one. But it may be because there's a lot of other things, like whether it be that peppery thing, pyrazine, or some fruit that's rich. The Belta is rich in fruit and all of that. That may be why, but in general, I expected more. With a white wine, you probably would have gotten a lot more autolytic flavors out of it.
Mhm.
Any sign of MLF, oak, tertiary, any of that?
No.
No, I agree. This is very much a primary fruit driven, maybe with a touch of some of this savory thing, but not really. But really, we're up here. So the fact that this is 2016 and then it is this fresh, right? Like to me, this does not taste like wine that is what, 8 years old.
Mhm.
It's pretty remarkable to me. And then this is exactly what Ignacio is trying to do, is that you can produce a wine, sparkling wine from Basque country that can age for this long. So excellent. You get to pick the next person for the palette.
Lil John. Let's say Dave C, fresh off of vacation. He was just at our house earlier picking up his wine.
Welcome back, Dave.
Well, all right. Starting with the sweetness,
Uh-huh.
this is pretty dry. Maybe not bone dry, but it's pretty dry.
Yeah, it's very, very dry. I mean, yeah, especially next to that acid, it's just like, whoo! Yeah,
Yeah.
bone dry. Acidity.
Yeah, I'd say at least medium plus.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's got some kick to it.
Yeah, this is a medium plus, like bordering on high. Like I almost want to call this high, actually. It is acid, it's ripping this thing, which is awesome, especially with the food from this region. It's like super food friendly. It's great. Tannin?
I don't really get any tannin.
Yeah, me neither. And it's not meant to be. There's some color here, but again, this was direct press. It was pressed off the skins as soon as it came in, so really not much on there.
Yeah.
Alcohol. What percentage do you think this is?
I would say between low and medium, like, yeah, not a ton.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is like 11%. Yeah, not a whole lot.
10,
12%.
10, 11, yeah. What is
Yeah,
it?
12%.
Really? Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I definitely get some alcohol, but yeah, it's not a lot. But yeah, I would have guessed 11%, but 12%, which is right in the medium, lower medium.
Would the bubbles affect your perception of that, maybe?
Perhaps. Yeah, absolutely. Moose.
Well, so to me, this is delicate. You know, it's very tight bubbles. But what I find interesting, you skip body, and
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I'm curious because to me, this is like it's like so light, it's almost like air. Is that because of the bubbles, or is it actually that light?
I mean, it's light. It's not a whole lot of body on there. I definitely call this like a medium
Really light on
minus.
the tongue, no?
Yeah. I think the bubbles is what gives this a body, but I also got a chance because I tasted this over a period of time when I was tasting wines for this month at the spa. And then I tasted after kind of bubbles had blown away, just a kind of still base wine. And yeah, even then, kind of what you're talking about, really light, really ethereal, which is kind of
okay.
so.
It
But
feels
this,
incredibly delicate to me when I'm drinking it with
Yeah.
bubbles.
yeah, so yeah, totally, I agree. I was called this about medium minus body. Moose, I'll call this delicate as well. It is. Again, I find it really hard to believe that this is 2016. I thought that bubbles are going to be dissolved more for 80-year-old wine. But yeah, I would still call this a delicate mousse, but there's certain like a creamy kind of a bursting of it here, which just maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just that it hasn't dissolved into the wine so much that it's kind of only unlocked once it's been agitated inside the mouth. But it's just kind of when I take a sip, it kind of really creams up. That's really bubbly. Flavor intensity.
For me, it's got pretty good. I'd say at least medium, if not medium plus. I mean, it's got some real density.
Yeah, to me, this is the same as the nose. It's kind of like high end of medium, lower end of medium plus. So either way you want to go, being generous, I'll probably call it medium plus as well. But yeah, somewhere between medium plus is what I would say. And you confirm everything that Julia, Dan, Ian, Alysha, and Dottie have pointed out. Is there anything else that you
Yeah,
you
a
get?
ton of citrus. I definitely got apricot on there a little bit, but it was mostly citrus, green fruit.
Yeah.
Mostly there. I don't get the pepper so much on. Well, maybe a little bit on the palate.
Mhm.
I don't think I call it anything particularly new, but confirm what they say. Plus,
Yeah. I think all the things that called out is right on. Touch of floral, a touch of green, the citrus, right? I still don't get much stone fruit. Both of you have pointed out little apricot and peach, but yeah, for me, there's not much of stone fruit here. Just and then that touch of like a underripe raspberry, strawberry still exists for me.
very tart fruit. Yeah, underripe tart fruit.
Very tart. Exactly. Very tart, even cranberry, underripe raspberry, underripe strawberry, kind of a deal. This green, for sure, the savoriness, which is what I actually like. I like that there's a little bit of savoriness on top of this kind of a green, on top of this fruit. I think it makes it actually really food friendly as well. Maybe versatile in terms of where it can go. Little bit of that like a Whetstone kind of a thing. And I get this with every Basque wine, but there's touch of solidity here. So a little saltiness that I get on the palate. And this is what's surprising to me, at least on the palate. Like on the nose, I didn't really get this as we talked about. Much of this
I get it on the palate, definitely more.
Exactly. I get it on the palate. I get a little bit of that like cheese rind. I get a little bit of the savoriness, especially back into the length, back into the palate. It starts off with a lot of that kind of like fresh citrus, the green fruit, the all the unripe kind of flavors, and then the greenness kind of touches. But towards the end, it is basically it lingers. What's lingering is this kind of like a salty cheese rind and all of that. And I think that's what's cool about this wine is that there's this kind of evolution of flavors. It starts with this kind of fresh citrus, unripe strawberries and red fruit and all of that. It's into really like savory, peppery, green thing that Julia and then Alysha they were all talking about. And then it ends with this kind of like salty, the cheese rind, that like athletic thing. So kind of takes you on this journey of starting it with the little unripe flavors, going into like savory territory. So yeah, I definitely get the secondary on the palate.
Yeah, but no MLF, no oak.
Yeah, no MLF, no sign of oak here. No tertiary for me. Yeah, no tertiary for me here. Again, 8 years old, and the fact that this wine is this fresh, hats off to Ignacio. Is it doing things right?
When I saw it was 2016. Really?
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of crazy.
Finish. How long is the finish?
Easily medium. I'd say easily medium plus.
Yeah, I'm gonna call this medium plus as well. There's some length to this thing. It again, all that ever-changing journey of flavors, but yeah, I'm definitely gonna call this medium plus. High end of medium, on the medium plus, but yeah, I think I'm gonna call this medium plus as well. Conclusions, take it home for us. How good is this wine? Would you age it?
Balance, I think, is excellent. It's got a really good balance of flavors and aromas and texture.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing is really well put together.
Mm-hmm.
Complexity, it's maybe not incredibly complex, but we kind of rated medium plus on the fish and on the length and all that. I mean, I'd say very good. I think everything we've said leans that direction.
Agreed. Absolutely. I think this having been more complex, perhaps. Everything kind of ended up on medium to medium plus, or the medium plus territory, calling it on the generous side of medium plus. So yeah, average being medium plus. I'm gonna call this very good myself. Would you age it?
I mean, it's been in the bottle, or it's been aging for 8 years, and it tastes this fresh. Like it, at least, again, as long. I mean, I don't know what would happen to it. I part of what's nice about it is the freshness, so maybe that would fall apart at some point. But I think at least another 5 years.
Yeah, at least. I mean, the acid on this thing is crazy. So it's got that crazy solid backbone. On top of that, like Dave mentioned, it's 8 years and it's still very much in the primary territory. Like there's not even a hint of tertiary on this thing for me. So yeah, it's crazy to me that the wine 8 years old is just fresh, which just gives me a sign. And also it's hard for me because as probably is for most people, I don't have a reference point wine or a reference point for like an old aged chocolate to begin with. Most definitely not for sparkling traditional methods sparkling chocolate.
Well, it's the classic wine club dilemma of it tastes delicious now, so why the hell would you wait to drink it?
Yeah. I mean, it's a different kind of wines that you're talking about here, but yeah, I think it's delicious now. I think it's really, I think this wine is incredibly food friendly. I think it's super versatile. I think it will pair well with a lot of different styles of food. I think that's what's beautiful about it. And having that acid is always helpful with the sparkling, with the pairing. If you're a som on the restaurant floor, this is an incredible tool to have in your tool belt in terms of pairing. because it can go so many directions. But the fact that it is this fresh with that much crazy acid, but it doesn't have a super high concentration or super high complexity. So I don't think this wine is necessarily going to fall apart. I don't think it's going to fall apart for a long time. I think you called it at least 5 years. I'm going to call this at least 5 to 8, at least. If 8 years in, if this fresh. But I say if you want to age it, put it down. Maybe come back in 3, check it at 5, and if you got multiple bottle, check again another one at 8. But I don't see this falling apart anytime soon. Again, no reference point. You will probably start to get a little more of the tertiary flavors coming in. The primary still staying there. All the savoriness may change to something else as well. So it may get a little more interesting, may add a little more complexity to the wine. But in general, I think this wine is great right now. Like it's perfectly delicious and versatile, exactly what it's meant to be. That it's not losing that freshness and approachability of chocolate that we all love, but at the same time having this additional layer of complexity from the bottle fermentation and traditional method, production method. So,
I
I
also
guess
like
my
how
call would be,
I also like how it's changed once I opened it, like as it kind of warmed up a little bit and the bubbles boiled, it started off like super light and effervescent, and as that's kind of died off,
yeah.
like the flavors that are emerging are good. Like it's nice. It's nice how it evolves as the bottle sits open.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I mentioned, I drank this wine in a glass for many hours until it went flat, essentially. And you're totally right that it was a completely different wine from the beginning to the end. I think this wine also is one of these, and I've said this in the past, some champagnes I actually decant because I think, you may lose a little of that bubble, but it just needs that air to really open up the wine. And I think this is kind of a similar thing. I think with the air, this wine opens up so much more with time. So this sounds radical, but maybe it's time to decant a sparkling chocolate, which is crazy. So
Yeah, I feel like the lemon decreases and the sort of strawberry, raspberry increases.
mm,
Yeah.
exactly. It's less. It becomes less austere. It becomes a lot more expressive of different things. It's not just the acid and like citrus and that. Cool. Excellent. Great job, everyone. Any questions? Any disagreements from the tasting?
Hey, yeah, Un, I think there might be something like off about our bottle because like the like pyrazine, like the bell pepper is so strong for all 4 of us that like I would say that this is out of balance, but I don't know why that would happen for a particular bottle. But like Dave said, he didn't really even get it on the palate. I don't know. It's interesting, but I certainly didn't love it because of the pyrazine.
Oh, interesting.
It's
Do you-
pronounced.
I don't know this about you guys, but do you guys often find yourself pretty sensitive to pyrazine, like a green in wines?
I mean, I've never noticed it to this extent before. Like I've noticed it, but it's never been something where it's like, just like right off the bat, it was like, oh my God, it's all peppers. Like
Interesting. And we've had Cabernet Franc on this wine club before.
Cabernet, we've had.
I like some I like Cabernet Franc. I don't like. I'm not.
Yeah.
No, and I would not have called pyrazine as like a primary flavor if they had.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's there a little bit. So
Yeah.
maybe it's a bottle difference.
Yeah, I wonder. So Ian will get a bottle later. We should try that one.
Yeah, to be continued.
Okay. Yeah, keep me updated. Maybe it was that one particular bottle. Maybe there's some bottle variation that took place, which is unlikely in a production method like this. But
maybe a bell pepper fell in our bottle.
yes, he was eating a bunch of peppers before he made your bottle. Before he bottled it.
I thought there were rocks in their bottle once or something like that.
Wait, sorry, what was it, Ian?
Somebody thought there were rocks in their bottle. They were like
Yeah.
black. I think it was like wax or something fell on it. They thought, oh, why are there rocks in our bottle?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, let me know. I mean, I'd be interested to see if you see a difference in a different bottle, but maybe something about this wine is, but it's also like for all four of you to get piercing that strongly is
weird.
interesting. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, to be continued. Any other questions? Any other comments? Oh, there you go. Chris offering up a little Jamaican rum tasting, little supplementary side rum tasting. I like it. I like it. Yeah, Chris is the guy. If you ever want to do some spirit tasting, particularly rum tasting, hit up that guy.
It's also like Jamaica definitely is one of the like places that the high ester rums are their hallmark, but also the French overseas departments have their own style, like they call it Grand Rhum, and it's high ester, long fermentation time, but it's different notes, not as banana and tropical fruity as the Jamaican rums. It's weird, similar but different chemically. What's going on there with the long chain esters? But yeah, no, I can go down a very deep rabbit hole and have like squeeze. Like we're on wine club now, not rum happy hour.
Is this just like a passion project of yours, or
Yeah, I got into like tiki at the beginning of the pandemic, and then like went down the rabbit hole until like I mean, I still enjoy like tiki and cocktails, but like having to keep acquiring shelves to store stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, Chris has sent me his rum collection pictures, and I was very impressed. It's like as a fellow rum lover, it was good to see another person who enjoys rum, because I think a rum is an underappreciated spirit.
The vast majority of people's understanding of rum is like really heavily sweetened, like stuff that has additives in it, and when you try like real like rum without additives, tropically aged, like
it's incredible.
Yeah.
So Chris, am I hearing a 7-foot rum club in the future?
100%. I am always down. Yeah.
And then an 8-foot French club.
Yeah. No, my brother is like into carpentry and made me a bunch of like little like flight tasting glasses that like he countersink to have Glencairns sit in. So I can do the whole like formal flight. Yeah. Pick the country style. Yeah.
All right. Maybe we will actually organize a rum tasting. I would actually love to take that rum tasting with you. So
yeah, there's Grenada just got a new distillery. The guy he was behind Bruichladdich Isla whiskey, Mark Renier. So I think he got his start in like French wine, but so his whole thing was like terroir in whiskey. So he would do, I think he was that and Waterford Irish single. And so he's like, single varietal, like single plot grain. He's taking the same approach to like sugarcane and like different places, plots within Grenada. That's cool. Like so, like one farm, he'll plant it on the hillside, or like, this is like more volcanic soil. This is red clay. So
that's great.
I love that. And it's wild, like unaged cane juice rum, and all from the same distillery, same part, same year, but
that's
like,
cool.
They're wildly different.
Cool. I love that. Yeah. That's excellent.
But yeah,
all right.
Always have to pour spirits for folks.
All right. After I get back to DC, we'll organize something or something. All right. Let's play everybody's favorite game. How much do you think this is on a retail shelf? How much would you be happy paying for this on a retail shelf? It's 2016. It is chocolatey. It is traditional method. It takes a lot of time and additional aging. So yeah, what do you think? 30-30, 30-40, 32-40, 35, 38-30. Oh. And no one got it right on the dot, but close. This wine on the retail shelf would be $33. To me, that is hell of a deal. The fact that you can get this amount of aging, this amount of kind of a complexity and ageability and all of that for $33, it's hell of a deal. Hell of a deal. So there it is. There you have it, folks. Any other questions? Comments about the wine? Not about the wine?
Delicious.
What?
And what kind
Yeah.
of booze are you bringing back from South Korea?
What kind of what?
Booze.
I'm not bringing any booze back, honestly, to tell the truth. There's nothing that first of all, I also realize